My dear students, welcome to the class of Masters of Computer Application. Today we are going to have communication on communication. When we wish to talk about that, what are the various types or various level of communication? For that purpose, let me come to the point that since the dawn of human civilization, mankind started communicating. Earlier, communication was so simple, but later on, it grew complicated the longer his ability of language improvised. He started communicating through gestures, postures, and a lot many things. So the very first division for communication you can take in the form as non-verbal communication. For having such type of communication, we need to focus that how such communication begins. Are you able to see my screen, what I am writing over there? Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
So the
Yes,
first
sir.
kind of communication that even in the absentia of word we can communicate. For example, we can say that we can communicate through our postures, gestures, and body movement. To offer you a very quick round of, you know, information, it would here be very fine to lead to a blog on non-verbal communication, and so that you can have the idea in your mind. And I'll be resharing my screen for the purpose of the same. And you will have that option to look at. If you come to this part, are you able to see something on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Non-verbal communication. So non-verbal communication is communication without the use of written or spoken words like body movements, voice patterns, time, touch, etc. Unlike the verbal communication, which is conscious and deliberate, non-verbal communication is instinctive and spontaneous. Then how significant it is? The kind of communication we do through words or the way we speak is known as verbal, and one study says that 35% of human communication are verbal. whereas 65% of human communications are non-verbal. That non-verbal meanings are conveyed through facial gesture, voice inflection, movement of body parts, clothing, body posture, and eye contact. See, here is another theory given by Albert Mehrabian that human messages are conveyed by verbal 7%, means the words that are used, they convey only 7% of meaning. Vocal, pitch variation, tone variation, high pitch, low pitch, kinetic tone, static tone, based on that and on the vocalization. When we talk verbal means only words only, but vocal 38% and non-verbal again stands for 55 to 65%. This signifies the pivotal role played by non-verbal communication. Let us have a talk on non-verbal communication, classification of non-verbal communication. When we talk of non-verbal communication, the same may be classified by 4 parts. Later on, you can say 2 more parts we will be adding into it, but right now we will be dealing with 4 parts in detail. So any one of you can read the first part. Is it visible to you from screen? Anyone? What is the title of
Yes, sir.
A? A kinesics A1, first part is facial expression and eye. There is a very popular code in Hindi, Bare Bhavan mein karat ho, Nainan hi so baat. Means the whole communication is taking place via face and eye. Here is an image describing and communicating that part. Then there comes gestures. What do you mean by gesture? So movement of body parts. When you take like leaning forward, leaning backward, that posture, and then there comes the posture. Posture and body shapes. First is movement of the body parts, hand, finger, leg, and the way nodding the head, all that will come into the gesture. But the third part will be posture. In what posture do we sit? In what posture we, while speaking, while communicating, posture and body shapes such as leaning forward, leaning backward, leaning down, nail biting, etc. Then there comes the physical appearance. When you talk of physical appearance, there is always a guideline that the way we dress up ourselves, clothing, jewelry, etc. means when you talk or you are going for certain interaction or you are going to enter into gathering or you are going to be in the connection or contact of the others, what kind of appearances do you want to carry? Maybe what kind of cloth should be for the occasion and what kind of jewelry or no jewelry. For example, if somebody is dead in your relation or known group, you will not wear this kind of jewelry that is being shown on the screen. You will not wear that. If so, you need to Be sensible while using, even in the professional field, offices, such kind of jewelry will not be recommended. So dress for the occasion, that is the single guideline for the same physical appearance, clothing and jewelry. Then second part, after kinesics, there comes the second part of the non-verbal communication through which we communicate. What is that? Proxemics. Proxemics means proximity, nearness, defines the meaning, conveys the meaning. For example, in proxemics, distance distinguishes and deciphers as the indicators of the meaning. So based on that, there are four indicators of proxemics. First is intimate zone. When you talk about intimate zone, when you are sitting quite closely from the physical context to the 1.5 feet, means you are very intimate friend of the person, or you are intimately related to that person, and distance is giving that meaning. So that is next one is personal zone. When you talk of personal zone defines 1.5 feet to the 4 feet of the distance. Similarly, you go to the social zone. Normally in COVID-19 scenario, this is coming at very frequently, or you can say most frequently used terminology is social distancing. What does that social distancing stands for? Means the distance from 4 feet to 12 feet. From here it came into existence that दो गज दूरी रखनी बहुत जरूरी. So that is the proxemics third zone. First is intimate, second one is personal zone, and then the third one is social distancing or social zone. Then there comes the public zone, means 12 feet distance to the range of sight and hearing, that much you can see. Then there comes the para language, third part of the significant part of the non-verbal communication. And what is that? The language depending on the quality of the voice. Like see, in an online education, if you are getting the voice broken at your end because of the non-availability of the internet or poor connectivity, what will happen? Your communication channel that is beginning from my end and I am trying to make it to reach at your end is being hampered and distorted heavily. So voice quality, volume, speech rate, words per minute spoken. If I will be too fast, it will be quite difficult for you to, grasp it. So with speech rate, grasp the meaning. Then pitch, high pitch, low pitch. Then manner of speaking when it comes to that means beyond the spoken word. Then there comes the next division of para language, that is analysis, concentration. Para language analysis, concentration is more on how than what. What are you speaking? But how are you speaking becomes more important in para language, in broken terms, or what kind of words you are using. So like para language also, the sound that is beyond the spoken word. For example, very often uh, mm, something like that. These terminologies are part of paralanguage. Then there comes the vocalization. Again, based on your preparation, your voice quality will be. If your voice is a shaky voice, means it is indicating nervousness. If your voice is broken voice, means lack of preparation. If your
Sir,
voice is clear voice, then it will be showing confident that you are very, very confident.
Sir,
Then
question
there,
था.
yes, 1 minute, let me complete this, then we will have the question immediately after this. If we are having the physical context, means what is physical dress, designing, decoration, background, etc. So environment such as room design, furniture, decoration, color, building and its decoration. Then color also demonstrate positive as well as negative feelings, particularly in the context of different cultures. Last but not the least, when we are engaged in lively conversation and seem to be engrossed in purely verbal communication, we remain ardent body watchers. That is described by the Desmond Morris. If beyond that, there is one thing that is known as haptics. The fifth thing that I wish to add, haptics, language of touch, non-verbal language of touch. And there is another thing that is very, very popularly known as chronemics, chronological order, time also. If you are giving somebody time and you are reaching 2 hours late, that is also giving non-verbal communication. So welcome to your question, please ask.
Sir, para language भी नॉन वर्बल कम्युनिकेशन में आता है.
Yes, beta. It is also the part of non-verbal communication. Means why is it, you have asked a very relevant question, and if I not answer the complete, my answer is not complete, means that will be injustice to your question. This is a highly remarkable question that you asked, because you are concentrating on the lecture. Para language, how can it be non-verbal? You can ask a question. जैसे आपने कहा पैरा लैंग्वेज भी नॉन वर्बल में आता है, मींस नॉन वर्बल मींस कम्युनिकेशन विच इज बियॉन्ड वर्ड्स, वर्बल कम्युनिकेशन विच इज थ्रू वर्ड्स, नॉन वर्बल विच इज बियॉन्ड वर्ड्स. सो इट इज, ये वेट अ मिनट, इट इज नॉन वर्बल पार्ट ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन. यस प्लीज. Yes, beta.
Sir, there is also a language called haptics. Haptics also comes in para language because para language mainly comes the languages of animal.
No, para language also comes the language, any kind of language that is beyond words. Para.
सर पैरा लैंग्वेज आल्सो सर ये ऑलरेडी सर लैंग्वेज में आते हैं, जैसे कि सर नहीं को सर ना.
Beta, that is language. Language means that is through words. Non-verbal communication is what? That is also a communicating language. Body language is what? See, word is not there in body language. When you say body language, so what is that? Language. No, if you will go to the broader meaning of the language, so body language भी एक language है. Yes, beta.
Sir, it is communicating without any sound. Sir, body language is just like.
Body language is like that. But here I am not teaching you body language. I am teaching you, the complete title is non-verbal communication. See the title. And then when you are taking non-verbal, anything which is, you are taking it as that anything beyond the sound. आप इसका मीनिंग ये ले रहे हैं जो कि ध्वनि से परे जो है वो नॉन वर्बल है, आप ये ले रहे हैं. हम आपको बता रहे हैं कि शब्दों से जो परे है वो नॉन वर्बल. अभी क्लियर हुआ?
ओके सर, आई अंडरस्टैंड. यस सर.
रचना से परे है वो नॉन वर्बल है. और आप समझ रहे हो कि जो आपका ध्वनि से परे है, जो ध्वनि कोई भी साउंड, जैसे बादल गरज रहा है, ठीक है, उसका एक मीनिंग तो आप ड्रॉ कर रहे हो ना कि रेन होने वाला है, इट में रेन. क्लियर? तो वो मीनिंग जो आप ड्रॉ कर रहे हो वो भी ध्वनि तो वहां है, बट एग्जैक्ट लैंग्वेज इज नॉट देयर. बादल ये नहीं कह रहा कि घर के अंदर घुस जाओ मैं बारिश करने वाला हूं, ठीक है, कोई ये नहीं कह रहा. वो एक ध्वनि आई और आपने उससे मीनिंग ड्रॉ कर लिया. मतलब कहां से मीनिंग आ सकती है? शब्द विन्यास से परे, शब्द संरचना से परे, जहां से भी मीनिंग आ सकती है. सो पैरा लैंग्वेज बेटा, एनी काइंड ऑफ साउंड विच इज कॉन्स्टिट्यूटेड बियॉन्ड दी वर्ड्स. बेटा आपको समझ में आ गया?
यस सर. ओके. यस सर. सर कुछ बच्चे सर लॉबी में वेट कर रहे हैं सर.
Okay,
शायद नेटवर्क इशू।
let me add them. And actually, I cannot see anybody in lobby. बेटा कोई नहीं है।
तो सर ग्रुप में मैसेज आ रहा था।
तो ग्रुप में ऐसे ही मैसेज डाल लो। चलो अच्छा, कोई बात नहीं, हमारे पास 51 अटेंडीज हैं और लॉबी में कोई नहीं, उसमें दिखता है ना कि somebody is waiting in the lobby, but I am unable to see. Nobody is here. Nobody. So let us move to the this point and move to the other part of, you know, this non-verbal communication. I hope that I have articulated the meaning. Now let us move to the other important thing where we were discussing. Non-verbal communication. Are you able to see screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So here non-verbal and verbal communication. Since I think I am able to clearly answer up to your level and satisfy the query. Then there comes, you can divide this verbal communication. Let us go for the division of this verbal, non-verbal communication types we studied. Let us go for the, you know, verbal communication. And how will you read this verbal communication? So if you go through the verbal communication, you will find that it can be oral communication and it may also be written communication. Written communication. You may have this idea. Now oral communication, and in unit 2 there was a topic, there was a point where it was said that you know, there it was said in unit 2 that difference between speech and writing, isn't it? So here oral communication and written communication. When you start talking that oral communication, you will realize that communication through speech or through speech sounds, use of speech sound through words, clear, and or through written. When you comes to written communication, so it also can be into the form of writing. When you talk about writing, so writing can also be of, you know, multiple types. And oral communication may also be of multiple types. Oral communication and written communication. Let us go for, you know, another division. Let us go for,
Sir,
yes,
sir,
please.
sir, what is difference between verbal communication and vocal communication?
Yes, nice question. Verbal and vocal. Verbal means through words, and verbal communication may be written words. But vocal communication you can take as the synonym to oral communication. Clear?
Yes, yes, sir.
Verbal vocal you can take as the synonym to oral communication. Let us
Yes.
move to the another division of the communication. आपको ये जो मैं लिखते जा रहा हूं बेटा, ये आप पूरा देख पा रहे हैं?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So अभी हम आपको ये बताएंगे
Yes, sir.
कि third type of division. What is this? So here we will be talking of third type of communication, that will be formal and informal. Your oral communication can also be formal as well as informal. Written communication can also be formal as well as informal communication. What is formal and informal? Means if you are talking in your personal space to your friends, to your community, to your group, means you are talking in an informal communication. All that communication, your maybe oral or written, if you are drafting a letter to your friend, your brother, sister, father, mother, anybody, all that is informal. But if you are speaking or writing in professional scenario, so the kind of communication will be formal word. In professional scenario, if you wish to communicate, means you are communicating in formal communication manner. Now let us move to the fourth segment of the communication and how does it work. That's what was asked as a question, I think, by the one of your classmates, and let us talk about that communication in this way. When we will be talking about this one, and let us take up it as a, we will begin with interpersonal communication. What is here? Interpersonal communication. Interpersonal means you have studied earlier that communication is a process of exchanging information from one person to the another person, or from person to people. If you will talk about interpersonal communication, means when there are of means two poles are required in this communication. Minimum two poles are required. Two parties, two entities. That will be interpersonal. Then we have talked about one thing that is known as intrapersonal communication. We have talked it in, I think, in the classroom as well. Intrapersonal communication. How do you look at this term intrapersonal communication, or how are you going to define it? When communication takes place introvertly, when you are communicating to yourself, means that becomes the intrapersonal communication. Here your classmate intelligently said that, sir, please tell us about the levels of communication. Clear? Based on the labels, you can divide it into this way. So interpersonal, intrapersonal. Then there comes is one thing, extrapersonal. Extrapersonal. When you use this term extrapersonal, means you are communicating with, you come up with the example like when human being is communicating with non-human entity. Clear? When human beings are communicating with non-human entity. So this is Non-human means you are communicating with animal. You are communicating with even plants, trees, or any maybe birds, flora, fauna, etc. That becomes the extra-personal communication. That may be defined as extra-personal communication. Then there also comes one more division. What is this? I have written group communication. Clear? What is this? Group communication. Means, see, interpersonal communication, you are interacting with maybe interacting with 2, 3, 4, 5 people. But when there is one group is interacting with other group, or you are sitting with the complete 4, 5 people are sitting and everyone is communicating with everybody. Group communication. If the group size is bigger, so what will happen? What is this? Group size is very, very big. Mass communication. Now let us see interpersonal communication. You are communicating with your friend. You are communicating with your, some relative. Then there comes the communication when you are communicating with yourself. Sometime you are introspecting something like that, or you are asking questions to yourself. Intrapersonal, that communication becomes introvert. Clear? See, inter-school tournament, intra-school tournament, inter-university tournament, intra-university tournament, inter-university debate, intra-university debate. You got the point? How I am using the term intra. Then there comes extra-personal communication, and then there is group communication. Then there comes the mass communication. What are the examples of mass communication? When even you don't know that with how many people you are communicating. Huge number of people, like newspaper. Newspaper goes to many people. Television news, they are communicating or not. Satellite communication, you are getting information through that or not. So that way, these are the communication. Now, based on that, let me ask a few questions and you try to answer. Telephonic communication, where will you be putting it? Give a concrete example of telephonic communication. Out of this group level, which level of communication is telephonic communication?
Mass communication, sir. Mass communication.
No. Telephone, you will talk to one person. You know the person to whom you are talking to. Clear?
Sir, it might comes under interpersonal communication.
Interpersonal communication. Very good. Then video conferencing.
So it may comes under group or mass communication.
Group communication. Because video conferencing, also speaker knows to whom they are talking to. TV channel.
Sir, mass communication.
Communication.
So, okay, mass communication further can be divided into two parts. Mass communication can further be divided into two parts. What that will be?
सर वॉइस नहीं आ रहा है.
Yes, I'm not speaking now. I'll speak as and when required. So when it comes to the further subdivisions of mass communication, you will realize that mass communication, here I'm using it, and I am going to talk about subdivisions of mass comm. How will you be dividing this mass communication?
Written and oral maybe.
What is there? Print media, communication via using print media. Print media is also known as what do you know? This is also known as
So newspaper.
no. I am writing something. How will you call it? What I have written over there?
Dead tree
Communication.
media.
Dead tree media means papers are made out of the plants. Is known as, this is synonym. If you will go to the English dictionary, so there is a latest term, dead tree media. Then you will find that there is another media that is known as communication via electronic media. Electronic media. This much will be the part of, communication, and that you may be using in the various method and various levels of communication. I hope that I have answered your questions. If you have any sort of question related to this, please feel free to ask. Then also there is, another sort of communication, that is business communication. Let us come to this word after this label. Here we would love to, because this is your part, business communication. What is this business communication when you call? So business communication can be divided into two parts also, by using, first one is vertical communication. Vertical communication. Vertical communication are of two types. Here, vertical and horizontal. So vertical, horizontal, and gray point. So vertical communication will be let me first mention them here. horizontal communication, and then there will be, grapevine. 3 types of. This vertical communication may further be subdivided this may further be subdivided as upward communication and downward communication. Got this point? Upward communication, downward communication. You are aware about it. I think so. आपको इतना पता होगा? Upward means like job application letter is an example of upward communication. Leave application letter is an example of upward communication. Then there comes, there may be multiple type of things like medical leave if you want to, if you are requesting for, that will be upward communication. When it comes to downward communication, so what will be downward communication? Memos, termination. See, resignation is an upward communication, whereas termination is the downward communication. The flow in the industry from top to bottom, that way. So downward communication. When we talk about upward communication, means communication is targeted to superiors, where that initiated by junior and subordinates and goes to the superior. Then there, when it comes to from superior to subordinate, it becomes the downward communication, and when the flow is subordinate to superior, it becomes upward communication. And then there is horizontal communication, when their communication flows to the parallel authorities like board of directors meeting. Persons are of equal status in, persons are in equal status in horizontal communication between persons of equal status. Got it? Then there comes grapevine. Grapevine, morely it is a kind of oral communication, and communicators remain, there is no such formal hierarchy. It's a kind of informal communication that is known as grapevine. So this much is from my side, this little I know. If you have any query, please feel free to ask. Dear
Sir,
student, yes.
सर कोकिल पोरवाल को ऐड कर लीजिए प्लीज.
बेटा अब ऐड करेंगे 5:15 बजे.
पढ़ना चाह रही है.
सर
अब तो लेक्चर खत्म हो रहा है, पढ़ेगी क्या? चलो मैंने ले लिया, ऐड कर दो. सी इज एडेड. यस बेटा.
Sir, upward communication and downward communication goes under vertical communication.
हाँ हाँ.
Sir,
Yes.
then what is the pattern of communication, sir?
Pattern of communication is also the same. Like in
Yes, sir.
what pattern communication is flowing.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Anything else?
No, sir.
Please. Any query related to that? Dear students.
No, sir, all
Sir, please
understood.
discuss. Sir, please discuss in short nature of communication.
Yes, very good. This is a very nice question, and let me try to answer. First, let me try to unshare my screen and then come to this point. Nature of communication. How do you look at, communication? Like it is science or art? First, let us talk about this. Whether communication is science or art. What is your angle? What is your take on it?
सर बोथ.
आकर्ष कुमार प्लीज बेटा, ऐसा क्यों कर रहे हैं आप? बोलिए, I asked the question that whether it is science or art. So you will find that it is the fine blend of both. Then, because it is art, because there is huge scope of creativity. It is science because there is a particular term that is known as phonology. It
Yes,
is
sir.
rather science of science. It is pattern of patterns. One symbol may be having one meaning in one language and may have the other meaning in the another language. Then what is the range of the communication? When you are talking about nature of communication, means when I say range of the communication, आपके communication का दायरा क्या है? It is all pervasive. Means everything, anything and everything in the universe can fall in the range of the communication. आप मैथमेटिक्स भी पढ़ते हैं तो मैथमेटिक्स के जो फॉर्मूलाज हैं वो आप कम्युनिकेशन के बिना न तो समझ सकते हैं न सामने वाले को समझा सकते हैं. Even statistics, mathematics, economics, physiology, philosophy, religion, anything means communication is all pervasive. Everything is in its range. When you come to the scientific part, like we practiced once, that we must try to eliminate the receiver or the sender. We practiced it in the classroom. So I will not go in that much detail because physically we have already discussed. But
Okay,
you
sir.
will find at the end of the day that there are minimum requirement of at least two parties. That two parties may be like जब आप बोलोगे सर इंट्रापर्सनल में कहाँ टू पार्टी होता है? अंतर द्वंद्व, द्वंद्व तो दो लोगों के लिए बीच में होता है. एक आपका माइंड है, एक आपका सेल्फ है, एक आपका सोल है. कोई डायबिटिक पेशेंट है, जलेबी देख लिया, उसको बड़ा मन कर रहा है खाने का. ठीक है, उसकी his heart is telling that he should eat that. आकर्ष तुम कर क्या रहे हो बेटा? आकर्ष
यस सर.
गेम खेल रहे हो क्या कंप्यूटर पे?
नो सर.
फिर कैसी साउंड आ रही है तुम्हारे स्क्रीन से और आप उसको म्यूट भी नहीं कर पा रहे। When we are talking about, हम आपसे बातें कर रहे थे, रुको थोड़ा कनेक्ट करो, आप लोग जो है ऐसे डाइवर्जन क्रिएट करते हैं कि कम्युनिकेशन साइंस है, आर्ट है, और उसके बाद इवन जब लैंग्वेज क्या है, चलो हम कम्युनिकेशन, नेचर ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन में आते हैं। Language is one of the tools of communication. There are many other tools beyond language of communication. Communication may exist without language. कठिनाई होगी, but communication will go. Communication will work. Communication you can find amongst birds, amongst animals, amongst other things. Even sometimes trees are also said to communicate among it. ठीक है, but language सबके पास हो ये जरूरी नहीं. And language is limited, whereas communication itself is an umbrella term. umbrella में आप देखते हैं बहुत सारी चीजें, बहुत सारे बोन्स जैसी चीजें होती जो जगह जगह से उसको जोड़े होती. Communication remain an umbrella term. Clear? तो उसका रेंज जो है, that's why nature of communication is very very wide. And communication, संचार जो communication है, संचार के माध्यम अनेक हो सकते हैं. भाषा संचार का एक माध्यम है, लेकिन संचार अपने आप में बहुत विशाल नेटवर्क है, तंत्र है. That's the nature of the communication, and these are the few points that describes the nature of communication, that whether communication is science or like language itself is a system, and it is a system of systems. Like sound system है, identification of alphabet, वो कौन सा अल्फाबेट किधर जुड़ेगा, नया वर्ड बनाएगा, उसका क्या मीनिंग है. It's a magic sort of thing. can means you can do something, and C की जगह B लगा दिया, ban मैंने आप नहीं कर सकते, और an लगा दिया तो एक हो गया. an, ban, what is that? That's the system of how the words, letters are being added differently to form a meaningful word. And then how that words are grammatically structured. कहते शब्दों का सार्थक सामंजस्य ही वाक्य है to form a sentence. How words are, कोई भी jumbled word आपको नहीं ना बनाएगा वो sentence. You have to arrange it in the order, subject plus verb plus object. Or in Hindi also you need to follow a particular sequence, so that they may give a clear meaning. So language is one of the two, and language itself is such a complicated, system, where you can say phoneme, right from the phone to phoneme to phonology to morpheme to syllable to word to phrase to clause to sentence. This is what such a complex network is there, and everything is being added at the particular desired point. But this language holistically is a very small segment of communication. Clear? अगर आपकी भाषा देखो, languages are many. Hindi, English, Urdu, Punjabi, Tamil, Telugu, Udiya, Arabic, French, Latin, Greek, Roman, Greco-Roman, then English, Spanish, many languages, Swahilis. Languages are many. So all the languages are just a kind of corner. They constitute a corner of communication. That's why communication is, and you see, all languages plus non-verbal communication, all of them constitute, and jointly when they come together to formulate a holistic body that may be termed as communication as a whole. Even if, see, sometime you write poetry or you write an essay and you are doing your level best, but you are feeling that कि कुछ तो अधूरा रह गया, कुछ कमी रह गई. You keep revising, but still you do not feel. So that gap of thought and word will always be there. Let me give you one Hindi example जो कि हमारे गुरु ने हमको पढ़ाया था और ये मैं आज आपको पास कर रहा हूँ. थैंक यू फॉर आस्किंग सच अ ग्रेट क्वेश्चन टू मेक दिस सेशन वर्दी. आपने मुझे मेरे गुरु के द्वारा बताए गए स्टेटमेंट को याद दिला दिया. माय टीचर यूज्ड टू टेल. आपके सामने ये कुछ दिख रहा है स्क्रीन पे? आर यू एबल टू सी समथिंग? नहीं देख पा रहे क्योंकि हमारी तरफ से लाइटिंग का डिस्टरबेंस है. मैं आपको एक ग्लास दिखाने की कोशिश कर रहा हूं. दिख रहा है?
यस
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 सर दिख रहा
ठीक है.
Yes,
अब जैसे मान लो, डू वी हैव वाटर बॉटल और लेट मी से समथिंग. चलो, एक हमने आपको ये सैनिटाइजर का डब्बा दिखाया, ठीक है ना? ये क्या है? एक जो डब्बा है ये लैंग्वेज की तरह है. मान लो एक लैंग्वेज है, ये लैटिन लैंग्वेज है और ये क्या हमारी हिंदी है, ठीक है? जब हम ट्रांसलेशन करने जा रहे होते बेटा, तो हम क्या करते हैं कि इसके कंटेंट को इसमें पलट रहे होते हैं, ऐसा कर रहे होते हैं. और अब इसकी फ्लूइडिटी ये है कि जब ये इसमें आ गया तो इसका शेप ले लिया. लेकिन वो हमारे प्रोफेसर साहब कहते थे कि इसको ट्रांसलेशन बोलते. लेकिन ट्रांसलेशन कभी परफेक्ट नहीं होता, क्योंकि एक भाषा एक कल्चर को रिप्रेजेंट करता है. तो जो अगर मान लो कि इसमें आपका सैनिटाइजर है और इसमें पानी है, पानी को सैनिटाइजर के खाली डब्बे में भी पलटेंगे तो इस ग्लास में पानी का कुछ ना कुछ इसेंस रह ही जाएगा. और सैनिटाइजर को इसमें अगर पानी वाले ग्लास में पलट देंगे तो सैनिटाइजर का कुछ ना कुछ इसेंस सैनिटाइजर के डब्बे में रह ही जाएगा, दैट स्मेल. या आप कह लो जैस्मिन के ऑयल को मस्टर्ड ऑयल के बोतल में डालेंगे, खाली बोतल में, तो वो जैस्मिन का इसेंस कुछ ना कुछ उसमें रह जाएगा. इसका क्या मीनिंग है? मीनिंग ये है कि वो पूरी की पूरी लैंग्वेज को हम ट्रांसलेट नहीं कर सकते. इसीलिए जब हम अंग्रेजी से हिंदी में ट्रांसलेशन करने जाते हैं, हिंदी से अंग्रेजी में या किसी अन्य भाषा में, तो उसका मूल तत्व उसकी मेन भाषा की बॉडी में छूट ही जाता है कुछ ना कुछ. यू कैन नॉट गो फॉर 100% ट्रांसलेशन. ठीक है? जब आप आत्मा की इंग्लिश ढूंढना शुरू करोगे, जब आप मान लो कि भगवान की इंग्लिश ढूंढना शुरू करोगे, जब आप यू विल रियलाइज, यू विल ट्राई टू ट्रांसलेट, जो है मन की अंग्रेजी क्या होगी आप मुझे बताइए. इज इट माइंड और इज इट व्हाट? और माइंड मन है तो ब्रेन क्या है? कुछ ना कुछ तो उसमें स्पेस रह जा रहा है ना ओरिजिनल लैंग्वेज में. अगर मन की अंग्रेजी आपने माइंड बनाया तो ब्रेन क्या है? ठीक है? देन देयर यू विल फाइंड कि बहुत सारे वर्ड मिलके भी रेलवे का हिंदी ढूंढने लग जाओ तो एक शब्द में नहीं मिलता. ठीक है? पंप का हिंदी ढूंढने लग जाओ एक शब्द में नहीं मिलता. पाइप का हिंदी ढूंढने लग जाओ एक शब्द में नहीं मिलता. तो हमें क्या लगता है कि चलो इंग्लिश ही आसान है, तब वी आर यूजिंग इट. मोबाइल का हिंदी ढूंढने लग जाओ एक शब्द नहीं मिलता. लैपटॉप का हिंदी ढूंढने लग जाओ एक शब्द नहीं मिलता. सो यू कैन नॉट ट्रांसलेट द होल लैंग्वेज इनटू अनदर. बट चाहे वो आप इंग्लिश बोल के कम्युनिकेट करो, उर्दू बोल के कम्युनिकेट करो, हिंदी बोल के कम्युनिकेट करो, आपने अगर दिल से दिल की भाषा सामने वाले को समझा दी और वो समझ गया, कम्युनिकेशन इज देयर. आपने एक शब्द बोला नहीं. ठीक है? चलो हम तुमको एक बात बताते हैं, एक कम्युनिकेशन का बड़ा पंजाबी एग्जाम्पल देते हैं आपको. ठीक है? पंजाबी एक पोएट्री है पंजाबी में कि एक लरजदा नीर सी. अब आप कम्युनिकेशन देखना, आंखों से गिरता हुआ आंसू. नीर में, यहां पे नीर में पानी भी होता है. ठीक? एक लरजदा, आंखों से ढूकता हुआ लरजता हुआ एक आंसू है, वो मर के पत्थर हो गया. एक लरजदा नीर सी, वो मर के पत्थर हो गया. दूसरा इस हाद से था, डर के पत्थर हो गया. एक करण लग रहा, एक रह गया लरजता संवेदना संग, वो भी पत्थर हो गया. एक करण लग रहा कहानी वो बयां, एने पत्थर वो था गिनती करके पत्थर हो गया। यू आर नॉट नोइंग द मीनिंग ऑफ ऑल द वर्ड, बट यहाँ पे जितना वो आंखों के आंसुओं का जो कम्युनिकेशन है, इसको पूरा उसमें डिफाइन कर दिया गया, पूरा उसका ऑल परवासिव मीनिंग डालने की कोशिश कर दी गई, और आपको भाषा नहीं आते हुए भी भाव पकड़ में आ गया। यू गॉट द कम्युनिकेशन। आया कि नहीं कम्युनिकेशन आपके ग्रिप में, बताइए।
यस सर।
यस
ठीक है, अब वो
Yes,
इसमें आपने शब्द नहीं समझे लेकिन भाव, इसीलिए कहा जाता है संगीत की भाषा जो है बहुत दूर तक जाती है। पंजाबी नहीं भी होते हुए आप भंगड़े की बीट पे डांस कर रहे होते हो, आपको पता ही नहीं है कि क्या बज रहा है क्या नहीं बज रहा है। सिमिलरली इफ देयर इज सम सैड म्यूजिक, आपके मन में दुख है, आप उसको कनेक्ट कर गया वो म्यूजिक से, आपने कोई शब्द नहीं आया वहां पे और आपकी आंखों से आंसू आ, कभी आपके मन में श्रद्धा के भाव, गॉडली आइडियाज आ गए और आपने भगवान को मंदिर में जाते आप गए, आपने तो कोई कम्युनिकेशन नहीं किया, आपके आंखों से आंसू आ गए। ऐसा हुआ भी होगा तुम्हारे साथ, बहुत सारे बच्चों को, कभी मस्जिद में गए होगे, अल्लाह को याद करके आपके आंखों में आंसू आ गया होगा, कभी गुरुद्वारे में गए होंगे, गुरु जी को याद करके आंखों में आंसू आ गया होगा, कभी आप मंदिर में गए होंगे, भगवान की एक तस्वीर देखी होगी और बड़े श्रद्धा से बहुत आप दुखी हैं, और वहां तो किसी ने कुछ भी नहीं बोला, बट कम्युनिकेशन इज देयर, और ये हमारा कम्युनिकेशन ही है जो पत्थर को जो है भगवान बना देता है। बिकॉज यू हैव एस्टेब्लिश्ड अ कनेक्ट ओवर देयर एंड यू हैव फेल्ड कि मानो तो देव नहीं तो पत्थर, मानो तो गंगा माता हूं ना मानो तो बहता पानी। सो दैट इज व्हाट, दैट काइंड ऑफ कनेक्शन when you are there. By the time you go with the river Ganges and you with the sense of spirituality and purity, you start having a different feeling by touching the water by your hand, and by the time you just look at a normal water flowing body, you think that it is just a water. ठीक है, तो कम्युनिकेशन, नेचर ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन आपका बहुत बड़ा नेटवर्क है। इट इज सच अ बिग क्वेश्चन जिसका आंसर जिंदगी भर नहीं दिया जा सकता, बट आप जो है ये महसूस कर सकते हो कि कम्युनिकेशन इज सच अ बिग थिंग। एक मोमेंट में आइंस्टाइन कम्युनिकेशन कर लेता है गिरते हुए एप्पल से, और जो है कोई न्यूटन कम्युनिकेट कर लेता है, लॉ ऑफ ग्रेविटी निकाल लेता है, कोई जो है जेम्स वाट उबलते हुए केटल से कम्युनिकेट करके स्टीम इंजन की पावर को निकाल ले आता है, कोई गौतम बुद्ध जो है आंख बंद करके इंट्रापर्सनल कम्युनिकेशन कर रहा होता है और वो सिद्धार्थ से बुद्ध हो जाता है। दैट्स द एबिलिटी ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन। सो नेचर ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन ये बहुत ही ज्यादा वाइड नेटवर्क है, जिसको कि हम कब कहाँ किस रूप में, जैसे मान लो एक, हम तो आपको एक और लास्ट चीज बता के छोड़ना चाहेंगे कि किसी ने एक चुटकुला कहा, सपोज दैट कि मैंने यहाँ पे एक जोक शेयर किया, सारे बच्चे ठाके मार के हंसने लगे। ठीक है, किसी बच्चे को अभी लिंक मैंने क्लोज किया तो उसको वो जोक समझ में आया, लिंक क्लोज करते वो जोर जोर से हंसने लगा। किसी बच्चे को वो जो है घर जाके जो है मतलब घर में इवनिंग तक वो जोक समझ में आया, वो अचानक से अकेले में ठाके मार के हंस रहा है। कोई बच्चा 4 दिन बाद बाथरूम में नहा रहा होता है, अचानक से उसको वो जोक समझ में आया, वो ठाके मार के हंसने लगा। क्या है ये कम्युनिकेशन? When your mind is fertile and you can establish a connect, then you start communicating and your communication remains over there. ठीक है, वो कम्युनिकेशन वहां से कनेक्ट हो जाता है। ठीक है बेटा, अभी हम लेक्चर को क्लोज कर सकते हैं।
यस सर।
और आपको और कुछ पूछना है तो आप बता सकते हो।